The following interviews were conducted in Western New York the winter of 2010 to 2011. Many people are beginning to realize the problems that high-volume horizontal fracking causes, but few are aware that fracking has been going on in Western New York for over 20 years. This low-volume vertical fracking is claimed by the gas industry to have been harmless, but many in Western New York know otherwise. Here are just a few of their stories. This next interview from Arcade, New York. It describes his experiences with gas drilling done on his neighbor's property.
This is my home, and I'm out here with Sarah, and I'm just showing her what Ardent Resources did to my property, how they damaged it in the process of putting a well in, okay? They came here 3 or 4 years ago, and they come with a package deal that's, I mean, it's almost comical. And they wanted my permission to search for gas on my property, okay? Now I gave them permission only to do exploration where they could set small charges. They could do no drilling at all. They ran 2 conductors out of this property into my ditch, okay, that fed my hedgerow. They run 2 big pipes this big around to drain all that water into my land, okay? These landmen that give you this, here's what they give you, it's almost comical. A creed of honor, okay? A code of ethics, look at this. It looks like it was written by an 8th grade kid, like in 1910. Okay, we run, here's a, you know, the legal justice is blind emblem, and then they come on your property and they destroy the place, okay? There's no ethics among these guys. They could care less, okay? Incidentally, the well's a boomer. It's a gusher. If you stand at my barn 4,000 feet away when they hit gas, that gas was, it sounded like a 747 aircraft taking off, okay? So I immediately ran up there. I looked at the thing, and they blew the water into that pond, okay? And I would love to know personally, where did all that garbage they pumped out of that, where did that go? When I had that guy here, I was so mad at him from Olean. He says, you people expect too much. That's what he told me. I says, I expect too much? You rip out, you bulldoze 8 acres of land and you push all the water into my property, destroy a hayfield that me and the wife have been working on for 2 years.
We have spoken to dozens of people in Western New York who have leased their land to gas companies without realizing the damaging effects of hydrofracking. The gas companies hire contractors called landmen, whose job it is to negotiate gas leases from landowners. The hydrofracking process and its potential health risks are never mentioned by these contractors. What is often reported to landowners is that all their neighbors have already signed the leases. Often people learn later that these claims were entirely fabricated and that the neighbors had not, in fact, signed anything. Many landowners are also informed that even if they don't sign, the gas companies will be able to lease their land anyway. Unfortunately, there is some truth to this statement. Through a process called compulsory integration, gas companies have made legal claim to gas rights on landowners' property without their consent. This next family from Wales, New York, has experienced firsthand some of these shady practices orchestrated by gas companies and their landmen.
Leased to a gentleman who stopped, said they were going to be putting in gas wells, and he came back several times. We told him no, we weren't interested because we had had other leases over the years that we weren't happy with and decided we'd never lease again. And they kept coming back, so finally we did lease. So they eventually put in 5 wells between 2009 and early part of 2010, right? And that's when our problems started. They dug up everything and then they left it. and it became very difficult to do farming, to get wagons back there and machinery and things like that. I guess we called him a couple different times, and then we finally got a hold of a gentleman from Ag and Markets, and he came out and he took pictures, which is what you have here, and still nothing was done, and it just became worse and worse. This one picture shows a open pit where it leaks. It always ran over and is still leaking to this day. And
What was the pit? What was in the pit? What kind of pit? Should we? Maybe I can put it on the camera. Here's the pit, and there's another picture. Where did the contents of the pit leak into?
Just run down across the field.
Do you have any concerns about that field now, or with the?
Yeah, I'd like to work it again, get the water off.
And we'd also really like to know if anything's going to grow there,
Yeah.
considering we don't really know what was in that water.
Why aren't people aware of the problems in Western New York? To begin, while there are over 9,500 active oil and gas wells in Western New York, there are only 4 DEC staff members monitoring and enforcing regulations. Also, when people are confronted with a problem such as when their previously crystal clear water has turned brown and smells like glue, or they have a leaking frack pit on their land, they find themselves with nowhere to turn. The DEC or the Erie County Health Department provide no assistance with expensive water testing, nor have they counted or tracked these water well complaints over the years. People are told again and again that their only recourse is to hire a lawyer and sue the gas company. When these suits are successful, there is often a non-disclosure agreement attached to the settlement, keeping the story quiet. Family from Sinclairville, New York, suffered tremendously after they had a gas well drilled on their property. It starts off talking about their attempts at finding drinkable water on their property since their first water well was contaminated almost immediately after hydrofracturing had occurred. Then she begins to describe a pipeline blowout, an incident that happened later. You will hear her husband speaking off camera. He did not wish to be
He was a
filmed.
professor in the college, and he'd studied all this stuff. He come up here for,
Dr. Harrison.
yeah, Dr. Harrison was his name, yeah. He was up here for about 4 or 5 weeks, putting in 36 test wells on this 50-acre property. You couldn't find one test well that okayed it for drinking water. But check your land's all right. All right. That cost me $50,000 for that. I said, how much do I owe you? And he said, you don't owe me a damn thing. He said, I've learned a lot from this. And he says, if people ain't careful, we ain't gonna have no drinking water. That's just exactly what he said. He's gone now.
How about the time the
Best friend I
well,
ever had. Huh?
the well out here, when I was doing my laundry that morning before we went to work?
The gas blew up.
Yeah.
We got here now.
We finally got a hold of the gas company. They came and they didn't even know where to shut the gas off. It was just, the pipe had busted and it was just blowing out all over out there.
Had to go clear.
You had to go all the way
up on
to the
hill,
back, which is almost a mile,
Which is miles, about 3 miles up there.
to shut it off.
Because you got one well here and the other well's way up further back yet.
And I shut all my stuff off in here. I was afraid the house
Sure,
would
and then you
blow
had to
up.
go to the hospital and have shots.
Yep. I lost my
Still to
voice
this
for a
day.
whole month.
You're bothered with the smell of gas. So. But they don't believe you.
So he signed up papers and stuff, and they went ahead and drilled it. And he says, don't worry about your water well. We'll take care of it. But they never took care of it.
How long did it take before your water changed?
Oh, water changes immediately.
It wasn't too long afterwards.
No.
I told him I got up one morning and did a load of white clothes, and I screamed when I opened my washing machine and seen them. They it looked like somebody poured oil on them.
You called the DEC? What'd they say?
They're about as useless as they come.
Well, then they sent that one guy up here.
The guy from the state. Him and I worked for 2 days.
He wouldn't give us a report on what he had found. He finally sent us a folder of papers, And most of the stuff they had blacked out. There was nothing there. You go along and all of a sudden, they just clean them all right up.
So the DEC wasn't any help?
No.
DEC, about the useless bunch of people there is. The oil, they don't get paid for it. They were paying the
Tell me
other
about
guys
this.
oil off from, no,
This?
first
Yeah.
guy with
That's my
50
dishes.
acres and more, they gotta pay him the oil. Nobody else had.
So why would they lease?
That's
They
what
get
my
some kind of
dishwasher
money
looks
from
like
leasing
inside.
it, or-
Well, that's all he gets, gas.
That's how black it got.
Oh, they get the gas.
Yeah, gas lease.
That was white at one time? Inside
Yeah,
there?
it was stainless steel, I think.
Well, the guys are paying the ass.
Well, when I saw
That's your water?
U.S. Energy,
Yep.
I was like,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, because I didn't hear you mention that company.
That filter over there, it's supposed to last for 3 to 6 months, and you got to change it. My husband changes them at least every week. And then we have a thing here. See, one of these pumps the gas outside off of the water. We got a machine on for that, but I don't know which one it is. And then I think it's every 3 days. It pumps out and flushes out. We have a gas monitor in here. It's right there. And we had the firemen up here one time because the thing went off. And they told us to make sure that we had, I think, 4 to 6 minutes to get out of there before the thing blew up, if that thing ever went off. It's went off a couple of times, but nothing's never happened.
It must be nerve-wracking.
It is. You go to bed at night and you think, am I going to be able to sleep all night long? When it first started, it was really crazy. So we drilled a new well, and that one had gas and oil and manganese and all of those kind of chemicals. And they would never do nothing. I had my water tested by the labs in Pennsylvania. They just told us different things we could do. Just got expensive. We couldn't keep it up all the time.
So you called them?
Uh-huh. Well, Bruce McGranahan, he even came here. We tried to make a deal with it. If we put in a new well and it wasn't okay, he would have to pay for it. But if it was a good well, then we would have to pay for it. He says, I can't do that for you, he says. So,
When you drilled the new well, was it okay?
no, it wasn't okay. It had more chemicals in it than the other one did. And it's right outside the house. And that's almost 100 feet deep.
Have you had any problems with your health because of the water?
Lots of them. I told you that I lost my voice out here from that when the wells let off out here and they couldn't get them shut up. I got what the doctor called a chemical virus or something other. And for a whole month, I couldn't talk above a whisper. Oh, my daughter, my kids wouldn't even let their little kids come here because they were afraid the kids would get sick. And that hurt because I think the world of my grandchildren. I got 14 grandchildren and I got 12 great-grandchildren. And it was nice to have the kids here.